Ready for a deep dive. One that might just turn your brain upside down.
Oh, sounds exciting.
Today we're going to be tackling Friedrich Nietzsche
Oh, okay.
and his views on morality.
Right.
We'll be exploring some key excerpts from his introduction to Beyond Good and Evil. And let me tell you, if you thought you had English moral philosophy all figured out, well, get ready for a real shakeup.
I'm intrigued.
So Nietzsche, he doesn't tiptoe around this subject.
Oh, really?
He jumps right in and says, and I quote, Nietzsche especially makes the highest excellence of society the ethical end, whereas almost all other moralists adopt ends which lead directly or indirectly to the degeneration of society.
Oh,
Right.
he's throwing down a challenge to
Yeah.
centuries of thought. Think about it. Most moralists of his time were focused on, well, the individual, their actions, their intentions. But Nietzsche, he flips the script
Yeah.
and says, hold on, what really matters is the kind of society we're creating.
Not just about being a good person, then.
Right, right. It's about whether our actions, our values contribute to a society that allows for greatness to emerge.
So he's talking about a society that cultivates extraordinary individuals.
Yeah, people he calls supermen.
You can imagine how that went over back then.
Not well with everyone, especially in Victorian England,
Right, right.
where thinkers like Spencer, Huxley, and Wallace, they were emphasizing individual liberty
Right.
and the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yeah.
Nietzsche is proposing something radically different. He argues that maybe, just maybe, a system that allows exceptional individuals to rise to the top, a kind of aristocracy of excellence,
Okay.
might be the key to propelling humanity forward.
It's a daring idea.
It is.
But here's the thing. While Nietzsche was challenging the core of English moral philosophy, he wasn't completely out of sync with all English thinkers.
That's interesting.
He actually found common ground with some, like Emerson and Carlyle, particularly in their emphasis on the power of individual will.
That connection to will is crucial because it leads us to one of Nietzsche's most important concepts, the will to power.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting.
So we've got this idea of the will to power looming large.
Right?
And I have to admit, it sounds a bit, well, intimidating.
Yeah, I can see that.
Is Nietzsche suggesting that we should all be striving for some kind of ruthless domination?
Well, that's a common misconception. The will to power, it isn't about brute force or controlling others. It's much more nuanced.
Okay.
And dare I say, even more interesting than that.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for us. What's the real story here?
Okay. Think of it this way. Imagine a sunflower reaching for the sun.
Okay.
It's not simply trying to survive, is it? It's driven by a force that compels it to grow, to expand, to fully become itself.
Right.
That's the will to power in action.
Okay.
A fundamental drive towards growth and self-actualization. And that exists, well, not just in humans, it's in all of nature.
So it's less about dominating others and more about mastering ourselves, reaching our full potential.
Exactly. And here's where Nietzsche connects this back to his views on morality.
Okay.
He argues that actions shouldn't be judged by some external code of conduct,
Okay.
but by how they contribute to the flourishing of what he calls the higher type.
The higher
Yeah,
type.
those individuals who embody this will to power, this drive for growth and self-mastery.
That almost sounds like he's turning traditional morality on its head.
He's certainly challenging us to see things from a new perspective instead of asking, is this action right or wrong according to some predetermined code. Nietzsche asks, well, does this action, this choice, this way of being, does it contribute to the emergence of something greater, something exceptional?
It's like he's pushing us to think beyond, I don't know, simplistic notions of good and evil,
Right.
and to consider the impact of our actions on a much grander scale.
And this leads us to one of Nietzsche's most famous and often misunderstood ideas, the concept of master versus slave morality.
Master versus slave morality.
Yeah,
Sounds kind of like, I don't know, something out of a history book
right.
or maybe a fantasy novel. How does this idea fit into everything else we've been talking about?
Well, Nietzsche was a master of using, provocative language
Yeah.
to shake things up.
Right.
But it's important to understand these terms metaphorically.
Okay.
He's not, advocating for literal slavery or some kind of power struggle.
Okay, so what is he getting at then?
Right. Imagine two different groups of people.
Okay.
The masters, as Nietzsche calls them, they are those who are strong, independent, self-assured. Okay.
They create their own values, define their own sense of what is good, what is noble. And they don't look to others for approval.
Right.
They are the standard setters.
They sound almost like Nietzsche's supermen in action.
Exactly.
You know?
They embody that will to power we were talking about.
Right.
That drive to create, to excel, to become something exceptional.
Right.
And their morality, well, it reflects this.
Okay.
They value things like strength, pride, self-glorification.
Oh, yeah.
Not because they're inherently, better than others,
Yeah.
but because these are the values that allow them to thrive,
Right.
to create.
And what about the slaves? Who are they in this framework? The slaves, in Nietzsche's view, they represent the different way of responding to the world. Imagine a group of people who have been, well, subjugated, oppressed, or marginalized.
Okay.
They may come to value things like kindness, humility, empathy, not because these values are inherently superior,
Right.
but because they offer a way to cope
Right.
with suffering,
Yeah.
and to create a sense of community in the face of, well, hardship.
So it's a morality born out of kind of necessity.
Yeah.
A way of making life bearable in a world that feels unfair.
Right.
Or even cruel.
And Nietzsche sees this slave morality as reactive rather than proactive. It's about alleviating pain and discomfort, about finding ways to level the playing field rather than striving for greatness or pushing the boundaries of human potential. He worries that this focus on equality, while well-intentioned,
Right.
can lead to a kind of, I don't know, mediocrity, a lowering of standards in the name of making everyone, feel comfortable.
So where does this leave us? Are we destined to fall into one of these categories? Master or slave?
Mhm.
Is there no middle ground?
Well, that's the beauty of Nietzsche. He doesn't offer easy answers.
Right.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell us what to think. He's more interested in shaking up our assumptions.
Right.
Challenging us to question everything, even our most, cherished moral beliefs.
So instead of handing us a rule book, he's giving us the tools to create our own.
Exactly. Nietzsche, he wants us to examine the origins of our values, to understand the historical and the psychological forces that have shaped them, and ultimately to take responsibility for creating our own moral compass.
That's quite a challenge,
It is.
especially after spending, centuries being told what's right and wrong.
It is, but it's also incredibly, incredibly liberating. Nietzsche reminds us that we are not bound by any fixed moral code.
Okay.
We have the power to choose our own values, to define our own sense of what is good, what is noble, and to strive for greatness, but on our own terms.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
Thought-provoking, challenging, and ultimately empowering. If societal excellence is the true measure of morality, as Nietzsche suggests,
Yeah.
what does that mean for each of us
Yeah. Right.
as individuals?
Yeah. Good question.
Are we all capable of becoming supermen?
Yeah.
Or does true progress require, I don't know, a different kind of sacrifice?
Yeah.
Something to ponder as we continue to grapple with these enduring questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Nietzsche's, radical ideas.
Yes. Thank you.
We encourage you to keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the complexities of human existence. Until next time.